If you're going to be putting so much effort and energy into writing a book, you want your characters to be good. So here are 5 things that are making your characters forgettable. Those are not having a clear want and need, having no meaningful flaw, they react instead of act. They have no contrasting relationships and they don't change at the end. These 5 problems have some simple solutions, so let's break those down. The first thing that'll make your character forgettable is they don't have a clear want or a need. Now, these to me are the building blocks of any good character. In my experience, your character is required to have a want and a need if they are going to be spearheading your book. And honestly, all of my primary characters, my major side characters, antagonists, allies, I make sure that they all have a want and a need. So, what are these things? Well, your character's want is their goal, it's their desire. It is the thing that they are spending the entire story chasing after. If your character doesn't have a goal, then they don't have a direction for the story to go in. You're not following a story, you're following and random events of someone's life, of someone who doesn't even care. So, giving your character a want, that will give them agency, it will give them motivation, it will give them a reason to actually partake in the story. Now, what is your character's need? Well, your character's need encapsulates their growth arc. Their need is who they must become by the end of the story in order to succeed. Let's take an example from Hiccup. Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragon, his want, his desire is to be a Viking. That's his goal throughout the whole story, is to be accepted. But his need isn't to be accepted necessarily, it's to lead the Vikings. And this ends up being his need for the overarching story, is stepping more and more into this leadership role. So what started as I want to be accepted, I just want to fit in, turns into not only do I want to be accepted, I need to lead. In order to lead, there's part of that acceptance quality. So he does end up getting kind of what he wants, but in a much better way. Fear not, this is a very easy fix. Take some time to determine what your character's want is, what their desire and their goal is, and what your character's need is. Who must they become by the end of the story? So go ahead, pause this video, figure those things out, and then come on back and comment below what your characters want and needs are. Mistake number 2 is having no meaningful flaw. Now, flaws are what makes your characters relatable. We're all human, we all have flaws, we all have things we're not good at, we all have things that aren't perfect. Your flaws are going to make your character relatable. Here's another important piece about flaws. Flaws create conflict and create challenges for your character. So not only does it make your character more relatable, it gives you as the author what you need in order to make your story richer and more interesting. Flaws existence equates to story enrichment. So give your character something to overcome. Flaws can be anything, and I do mean any trait. Flaws don't need to be vices. They can if you want to, but you don't have to give your character some terrible addiction of some sort in order to give them a flaw. If flaws can be something positive, that villains twist into negativity, or the story makes bad. Midoriya from My Hero Academia loves helping people, and he so cares about helping people to the extent that he keeps breaking himself. Batman doesn't take lives, therefore people keep breaking out of Arkham and keep causing problems. It's because of his moral code that more villains keep running on the loose. Waxilium from the Mistborn Wax and Wayne series gets so single-minded when it comes to justice that he will hunt down a prey single-mindedly and let masterminds work in the background. And this is something that he works to overcome throughout the story. This is another really simple fix. Here's a challenge for you. Determine at least one flaw for your characters. And to help you, down in the description below is a free list of a bunch of different flaws that you can choose from to help you get started. Third on the list to make your characters very forgettable is they are reactive and not active. They are always reacting to what's happening around them instead of taking action. Here's the thing with stories: engagement equals engagement. What do I mean by this? When your character engages in the story, your audience is also going to engage in the story. We're following this character. So if they have agency, if they care, we are going to care more as well. That is the power of agency. Now, what is character agency? Agency is the ability to make meaningful decisions, take purposeful actions, and directly influence the plot. Here's an example from my current book. The character won the race, and then he's at a party and he's dealing with a bunch of nobilities, and they keep coming up to him, and everyone's trying to get his attention at once. These two events feel kind of just there. There doesn't really flow together, right? You win a race, and now people are pestering you at a party. That doesn't make sense. But here's how I wrote it. Because he won a race he really shouldn't have, people are impressed. They keep approaching him, and then they have this high expectation on him, on top of being surrounded by a lot of people and people vying for his attention. So because he won a race, he's getting all of this unwanted attention and doesn't really know how to deal with it. Make sure that your character is influencing the story and not the author. Audiences can tell when the hand of the author gets involved because it feels like the character is a puppet on a string being pulled throughout the story. And this is a very easy fix as well. When you're writing from scene to scene, don't say, this happened, and then this happened. Say, this happened, therefore this happened. You want to link every moment together. You want to link plot events together. So even if you do plot out your story event by event, you can add character agency simply by making this one mental tweak of, and then, to, therefore. Thing number 4 that's making your characters forgettable is they don't have contrasting relationships. To exemplify this, I'm going to share about the Mary Sue. The Mary Sue was originally a character self-insert into Star Trek. It was a fan fiction. And this term has kind of become the epitome of characters who are just too perfect, do everything well, are overpowered, everyone likes them, they have no flaws. That's what this term has kind of devolved into. One of the reasons why this is so boring is because everyone likes this character. There's no differentiation between how characters react with one another. Your characters are all gonna have different agendas, and that's going to create conflict. Here's an example from Harry Potter. We have Ron and Hermione. They are Harry's allies. They are his friends. They go with him on all these adventures. They take on danger with him and travel with him. At the end of the story, they are always there to help him. However, how many times do these characters bicker? Do they have arguments? It happens often because they have their own agendas and are trying to also accomplish their own goals. Most of the time it aligns with Harry, but sometimes they're conflicting with one another. McGonagall is another great example of this. McGonagall is a very powerful ally of Harry. However, she's his teacher, and she is his protector. So though she is an ally, sometimes she's in an antagonistic role because she doesn't want this kid to be in danger. So she's going to do everything she can in order to persuade him out of it. So even though your characters have positive relationships, it can still have conflict caused through them. Let's look at the opposite end. We have Draco. Draco's absolutely an enemy. He's this petty rivalry between him and Harry. He's classist. They are never going to be on the same level. And whenever they're together, there's always posturing. There's always divisiveness between these two. On the other side is Voldemort. He is very much an enemy. He's actively trying to kill Harry, but he's also actively trying to relate to Harry and say that they're the same person. Completely different from Draco, who's like, we're nothing alike. So, your characters' relationships, even when you have positive relationships and negative relationships, are going to be complicated, are going to add conflict and strife, even if it's a positive relationship. Hiccup loves his father loves him, but the antagonist of How to Train Your Dragon is his father. The main person in his way is his dad, even though they have a pretty good relationship to begin with. So, how do you fix this? We'll take some time, pause this video, and focus on writing 3 side characters and how they interact with your main character. Are they an ally? Are they an enemy? Are they family, friends, rivals? Take some time to think about who else is in your character's world and how they interact with them, and make sure that there's differentiation between these things. Now, the 5th thing that's going to keep your character absolutely forgettable is that they don't change by the end of the story. There is an exception to this rule, and that is called the flat character arc. I talk more about it in this video up here. But generally, you want your character to change by the end of the story. We want to see progress. We want to see transformation. People go to stories to see a change. So we're going to be focusing on that. Remember how I mentioned the need beforehand? Your character's need is who they must become by the end of the story in order to fulfill the requirements of the story. In order to win the final fight in the climax of the story, they need to be someone different than they were at the beginning. So your character's need is who they will become. And a part of the arc is accepting that this is who they must become. It's accepting some sort of truth or revelation in order to make this change permanent and in order to grow. Now, this is something that I focus on when I'm actively plotting, when I plot my character arcs and when I plot my overall story arcs. I focus on the character's growth. Here's an example of how you can do it. We're going to go back to How to Train Your Dragon and look at Hiccup again. So Hiccup's need is to lead the Vikings. Well, let's start at the end. He needs to lead the Vikings, which means he needs to earn their trust, which means he needs to show that he has skills with dragons, which means he needs to get those skills by having a positive interaction with a dragon, which means seeking one out. So you see how I just basically went through the whole story backwards from where your character is going to end up. Work backwards to where they are now. So take some time, look at who your character is now, remember what need you gave your character, who they will become, and do what I just did with Hiccup. Work backwards from who you want them to be to who they are now, and think through what do you as the author need to put in their path in order to make them get there. Ultimately, these are beginner mistakes that are really easy to fix as long as you know about it and you focus on it. And here's the good news. You won't always have to be so laser focused on these elements, because as you keep writing, as you keep getting better, these things are going to become a lot more intuitive during your creative process. The more you practice, the easier all of these will become, and the more instantaneous they will come. So comment below, which of these tips did you find the most helpful? Make sure that you implement those things today. And for more on character development, check out this video right here.